where news comes first. This is WECT News.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for watching tonight. I'm John Evans.
And I'm Daniela Henke. The group overseeing more than $1 billion of your money is looking for a new leader again.
Dan Winslow, the president and CEO of The Endowment, announced his resignation today after less than a year on the job. WECT's Connor Smith learning new details about what may have triggered his decision. So what do we know tonight, Connor?
Yeah, John, we're learning about some tension inside the endowment over its direction and overall size. But still, at least from the outside, this is a surprising decision from a man with some pretty big goals. A tenure of less than a year ending abruptly with this one-page press release. Dan Winslow no longer in charge of the endowment.
We did not expect to get this press release this morning.
I think the whole community is surprised.
Winslow brought in last summer to replace William Buster as CEO. He oversaw more than $1 billion public dollars that came from New Hanover County's sale of New Hanover Regional Medical Center back in 2020. Winslow and the endowment declined to add anything beyond the release, and board members didn't provide us with much clarity. Ben Schotman, news director from our media partner at WHQR, has followed the inner workings at the endowment closely.
It just comes down to that idea of who is the endowment for and how should it be accomplishing its mission.
Schotman says there are two philosophies inside the endowment, helping everybody in the county or focusing on the people most in need. There's also a debate about how big the staff should be. Former State Senator Harper Peterson, who opposed the sale of the hospital to Novant Health, believes the endowment's board should resign because of the friction.
Our hospital is failing, our endowment is failing, and it's just a travesty.
Winslow outlined lofty goals, a roadmap full of investments from birth to adulthood, and a rainbow with different tiers of grants. While the endowment's release says Winslow wants to focus on personal priorities, Peterson believes he was forced out like Buster last year. Peterson says the endowment needs to get its next hire right.
We cannot squander it with this present board and the direction they're going. We need a correction, a course correction, and we need it immediately.
Making matters more complicated, in 3 years per IRS rules, the endowment has to give out more grants, around $85 million per year.
And they just haven't done anything of that magnitude yet. So whoever comes in next is going to have to get to work really quick.
But for now, the endowment board has to work to find a CEO that brings everyone together. We reached out to New Hanover County as well. They've maintained a relationship with the endowment since it was created. A county spokesperson says they're still confident in the endowment's mission and fully support the work it's doing. John?
Okay, Connor, so what does the future look like here? Do we have any word on when the board will actually hire another CEO?
Yeah, no word yet on what the timeline looks like here, but it is important to note there was a 6-month gap between Buster leaving and Winslow's hiring. For now, one of the endowment's vice presidents has stepped up to interim CEO. Details on that are inside this story on our website.
All right, Connor, appreciate the update on the decision by the endowment CEO. Thanks. Dan Winslow's resignation, just the latest bump in the road for the endowment. In February of 2024, the president and CEO, William Buster, abruptly stepped down. Less than a month later, board member Patricia Cusick resigned, followed by Michelle Holbrook in May of 2024. Last September, 3 endowment staff members resigned. The Vice President of Programs and Operations, Lakeisha Day, September 23rd, followed by the Director of Communications, Kevin Maurer, Program and Operations Coordinator, Allison Chang, a day later. And now Winslow is leaving as President and CEO again after less than a year on the job.